So you want to make a game, but you don't really have that much extra money lying around and the money trees in your backyard aren't blooming yet. Should you forget about making a game and wait until you have some more money? No, of course not. You can easily make a game with a $0 budget, and with a small budget used efficiently, you can go a lot further. Hi, my name is Auro. I'm an indie game developer and I make weekly YouTube videos sharing my tips to help you on your own game dev journey. If this sounds interesting to you, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. In my last video, I shared how much money I spent making my first game, Mortal Glory. I thought it would be fitting if in this video I shared a few tips on how to spend your game development budget efficiently. This way, you can make even a small budget last a lot longer. Okay, let's get started. My first tip is to try and see if what you need can be found for free. There are many places on the internet where you can find free assets to use, whether that's pictures, models, audio, code, pretty much anything. All it takes is some googling to find these places and then see what they hold. When downloading free assets, just be careful to check what kind of a license they are released under. Many licenses will require you to give proper attribution to the creator, and some licenses can even prohibit you from using the assets in commercial products. Do note that you should check the license with paid assets also. If you want to be sure you are only getting assets you can freely use, you can try searching for CC0 assets, which means they are licensed under Creative Commons 0, which gives you the right to do pretty much anything you want with the asset. My second tip is to use asset stores. Asset stores are the best asset a modern indie developer has. You can find pretty much everything in them: graphics, audio, code, tools, even ready-made games. All this for a very low price usually. You might now be wondering, but if I use an asset store, won't my game look and sound like everyone else's game? No, it won't. Not if you do it in a smart way. Your main character probably shouldn't be a ready-made asset, but nobody cares if the trees in your game are lovingly handcrafted by yourself or if you spent a few dollars to get them from the asset store. Nobody cares if you had to take a trip to the nearby beach to record the sound of your foot on sand, or if the footstep sound in your game is the same as in 10 other indie games. I'm sure you get the idea. Use the assets with consideration. Nobody is also stopping you from modifying the assets. You can buy that same tree that everyone is using, but if you paint it blue and put a bird in it, now your store-bought asset is suddenly unique. And even if someone does notice you are using ready-made assets, it's not really a big deal. In my first game, Mortal Glory, all the UI assets, all items, all skill icons, and all the audio were from asset stores. I'm sure someone must have noticed, but so far I haven't gotten a single comment about it. Maybe it's because deep down, most people accept that not every fireball has to be unique. Not all fireballs have to come naturally grown from your local organic fireball farm. A fireball can be just another fireball from the fireball factory. But yeah, don't be afraid of using asset stores. They will save you a lot of money and time. Also good to note that at least Unity's asset store has sales few times a year when you can get many assets for half the price or less. Just don't go crazy during the sales. You don't need to buy some asset because you think you might use it in your next game or the one after that. Been there, done that. Save your money for what you currently need. My third tip is to carefully consider what type of a game you are making. Mostly, what type of graphics your game will use. Different types of games cost a different amount of money to make, and graphics is usually the biggest determining factor for the cost. A game with flat, low resolution pixel art like my game costs a lot less to make than a realistic 3D game. If you are just starting out with a shoestring budget, some genres and graphical styles might not be the best choices for your first game because of this. Before you make any final decisions on the outlook of your game, consider what type of art will you need and how much of it will you need. It might also be a good idea to ask a few artists for prices so you can estimate the cost factor early on. My fourth tip is to prioritize your use of money. If your budget is very limited, carefully consider what brings the most value to your game. In principle, this tip might be obvious, but often in practice you are kind of flying on autopilot and it takes a conscious effort to put things into perspective. When thinking about spending money on something, some good questions to ask yourself are: would I be able to do this myself? If so, how much time will I save with this? Is the time saved worth the price? Will the average player notice this? How much do I expect this to improve the enjoyability of my game for the average player? How much do I expect this to increase the sales of my game? If your budget is limited, it is important you are prioritizing its use correctly. For every game, the prioritization can be different. Although I would say that at least in 99% of the cases, prioritizing graphics is never the wrong answer, as that is what draws players in to try out your game. My fifth tip is to use the assets you have efficiently. This can mean different things, but the principal idea is that if you are using your existing assets efficiently, your need for new assets is lesser. A very simple method of this is recoloring or slight customization of your existing assets to create new assets. If you have a red monster asset and you want another monster asset, you can recolor the red monster asset into blue, so now you don't have to buy a new blue monster asset. Again, this is a very simple example. Another more interesting form of this is modularization. Let's say you want 100 different people for your game. You probably shouldn't buy 100 different people. Instead, you could buy 5 people. Break those people into parts and then create new people by reorganizing the parts differently. Then put in some code for procedural generation and now your 5 unique people become 5,000 unique people. My sixth tip is related to ordering art assets. For many game ideas, you cannot find every asset you need from the asset stores. If you are not a talented artist, this means you should look into getting the remaining assets custom made. It might be expensive, but at least the assets will be unique and exactly how you want them. But before you make the order, you need to ensure you have good specifications for the artist and that your specifications 100% match your needs. The most important thing is to ensure that whatever you get will be easily usable for you in the game. This means that before ordering assets, you should create your own temporary art and see how it functions in the game. You never know if there are some issues you didn't think of before. You don't want to end up in a situation where you have bought expensive assets from an artist and then later on you notice that the assets are actually too small for all your use cases. After you have ensured you are 100% sure what you need from the artist, you should write down everything relevant related to your needs and give that file to the artist. You could just talk it through with the artist, but it's better to have a file also, so there's less of a risk of miscommunication. Okay, that's all the tips I have this time. Let me know in the comments if these tips were helpful to you and if you would like to hear more about some specific topic. Okay, see you in the next one.